And welcome to episode 356 of Geektown Radio. I am back this week after a very long time with... Kitty. Bex, how you doing?
Hello. I was expecting the sonic drowning noise there.
No, I don't know where that is at the moment. I'd have to go...
Oh dear, what a shame.
It's been a long while since you've been on because you've been so busy. You're increasingly popular.
It's a mystery to all, most definitely myself included, but it has been approximately 5 million years, yes.
Yes. So in the long time you've been away, what have you been up to?
I have been off at events. I've been doing a lot more on stage hosting and adventures. I adventured out to Gamescom in Germany for that, which was my first ever time in Germany, my first ever time at Gamescom.
Oh, wow.
I got lost a lot.
Well, of course you did, yes.
I mean, you could fit a standard convention into each one of the halls of Gamescom. So I'd kind of nip off to go and like say hi to the people at Sega or say hi to the people at Team 17 and catch up with people that I've, been working with for the last few years just over email and never seen in person. And then I'd have to like phone back to the stand I was working and be like, so yeah, I'm lost. I had a good point as well where being that I did Spanish, not German at school, I don't really know any German. And at one point was trying to articulate without a map that I needed to get to Hall 9 and was like, well, I can't just yell 9. Why couldn't it have been any other hall? And yeah, there was a lot of fun and games and shenanigans with that. But it was really, really cool. It's huge, absolutely huge. And there was some really cool things to see. I did a load of videos and stuff that I've been putting up on social media. Mm-hmm. But they had like one of the things which just made me just sort of like, this is amazing, was a giant Lego Bowser. I don't know if you spotted that on my videos.
I think I did see that one, yes. Yeah.
Huge. It was like 2 or 3 people tall and it was articulated and you pressed buttons and it did different animations and sound effects. Like the whole thing moved.
Oh,
it was
wow.
So good. And just stuff like that, just like there's just there in a hall when I just got chatting to the person who was from Lego, and I was just like, "This is amazing! Did you make this?" And they were like, "No, but my mate made a lot of the plans for the Optimus Prime Lego that's currently out." And I was just like, "Oh my goodness, that's incredible!" Just I'm now going to quiz you for an hour on how Lego is built and designed. And that was really, really good fun. But the whole thing was good. It was lovely to see people. It was a phenomenal adventure. Very long days if you're working Gamescom, though. It is 9 a.m. till 8 p.m. opening hours for like 5 days. I sort of lost track of time. I was just inside a very large building for a week. And by the end of it was a bit bleary-eyed and like, wait, the outside world, what does that look like? How do I change the contrast and the aspect ratio on this?
I would like to go over to Gamescom at some point because it looked like it was a really good show.
Yeah, there are loads of after parties as well. I was too tired for the after parties, but you'd kind of be leaving. And I remember one point I was leaving and I got a bit lost, as you would imagine, and I went for a different hall and discovered that one of the stages had been turned into a rave and there were just people like having a bit of a rave and a dance and drinks and stuff. I was just like, wait, I've accidentally walked through a nightclub. This is definitely was like a Gamescom like 3 hours ago. But yeah, they have like after parties and event things and loads of stuff goes on. It's a bigger event than even it seems just looking at it on paper because there's all these extra peripheral things that happen too.
Germans know how to party.
Yeah, I discovered that. There was some cracking tunes being played by a live DJ. So yeah.
Very cool. What other stuff have you been doing?
Continuing with the fun and joys of streaming, I've changed up my stream schedule this week, giving poor Lara a break as opposed to many broken bones, as she's mostly been having in Tomb Raider 2.
Heard her off things, yes.
Yes, I had the sudden urge to replay Day of the Tentacle.
Awesome.
We have picked up Day of the Tentacle and I haven't played it in a very, very long time. So it's good fun. Some of the bits I remember, some of the jokes I'd forgotten, and I'm getting to enjoy them all over again. again. That's pretty good fun. And I'm going to be playing Little Nightmares 2 because playing the first one went so well and I didn't end up hiding under my desk at all. More scary than it has any right to be, that game, considering like how sort of cute but not some of the graphics are. It's creepy. It's scary.
I can't remember whether it was Insomnia or whether it was at EGX, but I remember going to one game show and they had the most ridiculously huge stand for that game. And they had some of the monsters, like people in accurate versions of the monster suits running around on it. It was like really, really quite scary.
No, I'm glad I wasn't there. That's just not okay. Nothing is okay about that. But yeah, I'm going to be playing the second one. Then I'm going to play Stray and Stanley Parable Deluxe. I'm going to go through all of those kind of like the shorter length games that have been on my to-play list for a while. That's going to be good, especially since the weather in the UK's gone back to rainy and my desire to go outside has gone back to zero.
Yes, it's gone back to normal UK weather. Yes.
Yes, I am grumpy about this and will remain grumpy about this until I return to being grumpy about it being too hot in about 12 months' time.
Yes, absolutely. Anything TV film-wise?
Yeah, I've been catching up in the evenings on a lot of stuff because I was so behind on the MCU. Like ridiculously behind. So I finally caught up with all of the Spider-Man movies. So I've seen Far From Home and No Way Home, finally.
Yes.
And I also watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
That was such a Sam Raimi film. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
It sort of felt like they started the movie, then waited till the company was looking the other way, and then just went, let's just make Army of Darkness 2. I was not expecting that to go in the direction it did at all. That was quite off the wall. Yeah. I liked it, but I also was kind of like, is this even a Marvel movie anymore? And I had some similar feelings about the one I watched last night, which was Thor, Love and Thunder, which I know you've just watched as well.
Yes, I watched that this week. This is pretty much the only new thing I watched this week. But what were your thoughts on it? Because I enjoyed it, but it leans slightly too much into the comedy to the point where there are bits of it which almost makes it start to feel a bit like a parody of an MCU film, and that means it struggles a little bit more when you're getting to the slightly more serious emotional bits, and I didn't feel they landed quite as well. Overall, I did enjoy it, and I think it was a fun film. I don't think it's quite as good as Ragnarok. I thought that was slightly better, but I still enjoyed it overall.
I mean, I think you're playing that too nice. I think absolutely the MCU is now a parody of the MCU. I was already starting to feel that in bits of the Spider-Man movies and definitely in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, I was feeling this is now a parody of itself, you know, like when you've just got bit of the X-Men theme tune as they wheel out Charles Xavier. Yeah, you know, like it's really become self-referential humor in jokes, and it is difficult to take a lot of it seriously now because the humor's so front and center. It's a difficult balance to make something that funny that also has a lot of emotional resonance. It's a difficult mark to hit, and the characters do just feel like I almost feel like I'm watching how it should have ended cartoons on YouTube.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
With that kind of like, 'cause I'm Batman type approach to things. It's like Thor is very much now just a parody of Thor, and I get a little bit frustrated with that because whereas I think a character like Loki and the Loki series, like they've managed to make him quite funny, but they've still kept quite a lot of emotion, and he's quite that kind of, you know, slightly damaged character with a dark past that's trying to make amends and doesn't really, like, he actively doesn't really know how to be one of the good guys.
Yes.
You know, like he's kind of fumbling his way through life in a completely different universe, in a completely different scenario. So it kind of makes sense that the things he would do before where people are terrified of him, people are now like, yeah, whatever, mate. And that kind of has a comedic edge, whereas Thor's just become inept. Yeah. Like he's just, and that was happening in Ragnarok where he suddenly didn't know how to talk to girls. And you're like, but, you know, I understand it if he's saying everything like correctly and kind of like, you know, in a really charming manner. And the other people are just like, yeah, whatever. But he's like actively bad at stuff that he's inherently good at now. And I think like that's become a little bit frustrating. Like you can get away with it a few times, but they did it a lot in Ragnarok and they do it a lot in Love and Thunder, where it gets to the point where you're just like, it becomes obvious that like, this character's going to faceplant here. This person's going to fall over. This isn't going to work. This person's going to get hit in the face when they throw something and it comes back. And it's making it quite predictable now, I think. So I did still enjoy a lot of it, but I did spend other bits being like, there's just giant goats in this because funny.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. And they can sort of understand human speech, but not. But why? But
yeah.
It's just, it exists purely for comic relief. Because would you really take your pets on a dangerous journey just because they're now a plot device, but they're just giant goats and then they kind of don't get mentioned at the end?
I mean, as I say, overall, I found it very funny and I did enjoy it, but there were bits of it where I think with Ragnarok, he managed to tread a fairly fine line between making it silly, funny, and having a good amount of action and it still feeling like an MCU movie. This has stepped over slightly too far into feeling far more parody than actually just comedy. And as I say, the character changes to Thor. He's just become a comedy character at this point, and I'd like to see that reined in a little bit moving forward. I like the fact that there is sort of humor in these things, but it was a full-on comedy, and as I say, started to feel like parody.
And if you're going to choose a movie to make into a comedy where the characters are, every line they say is a joke, maybe don't do Love and Thunder. Like that just that's not the plot line where I'd be like, the perfect choice for like a comedy scenario, the one where one of the main characters has just been diagnosed with cancer. No. So it makes it tonally a bit weird, and I felt that with Ragnarok as well, because it sort of felt like two different movies patched together, and it did work and it was funny, and I have watched that movie like multiple times, but it does almost feel like two movies. It feels like half of it's been directed by and written by the people that did the first couple of Thor movies, and then the other half is this new comedy multicolored vibe. And you kind of got away with it in Ragnarok because there was two different settings. And the tone was different kind of based on the setting. It still felt a bit disjointed, but it kind of was fun enough that it kind of pulled it through. Love and Thunder, I enjoyed bits of it, but it felt like a lot was happening and you were kind of pulled all over the place. And in a very much, I don't know, someone, I can't remember who it was, but somebody at some point somewhere I read or heard, I don't know, said that a lot of the modern ones feel like mini-series squished into movies.
Well, yeah, I did feel that. There are points with the editing in that where it feels like the scene just sort of gets chopped at the end and then suddenly you're somewhere else. It didn't flow particularly well. It felt like, segments, and then they were sort of all just like taped onto each other. There was just edit, next scene. There wasn't like a decent flow to it. So there are things to recommend, I think, in that film. I mean, the comedy is good in places, but it just goes slightly too far, I think, and it needs pulling back a little bit.
And I sort of feel like I'd missed 3 Guardians of the Galaxy's movies.
Yeah, there is an entire segment in there which was sort of from him leaving with the Guardians to this film.
Yeah, it's like 8 years later.
Yeah, there is this.
And you're kind of like,
gap.
Wait, what? Why is this 8 years later? That I found a little bit weird, because I was like, but I want to see all of these adventures.
Yes.
And if it's been 8 years, how come no one's had any character development? If anything, they've gone backwards. It was just suddenly it's 8 years later for no real reason other than we wanted to do this cool montage of the movies we didn't get to film because we were making this one. And I was like, okay. I kind of wanted to see Thor on adventures with the Ravagers and those movies as well. But yeah, it's weird because I enjoyed it while I was watching it. But it's one of those ones that the more you think about it afterwards, the more you're like, oh dear, critical thinking is not the friend of this movie.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of those things that you can sort of stick on and enjoy in the moment, but it's certainly not up there with some of the better MCU films, you know? It's difficult because they've struggled a little bit on the movie side after Endgame, I think, which is interesting. I think they're doing a better job on the TV side than they are on the film side now. But there's interesting stuff coming up, so we'll see where it goes.
Oh, yeah. Like, I will still be watching a lot of the stuff. And I'm quite, like, you know, I'm slightly criticizing the comedy, but I'm also really, really liking She-Hulk as well.
Yeah.
Because it is just Ally McBeal, but green.
Yeah.
And it is more of I say more self-contained, it is and it isn't, but it is, I think, because that's kind of separate and it kind of pitches itself as sort of separate in its presentation and its style, and because it's a TV series of those half-hour episode formats, I think it's kind of working better for it than sort of applying the same thing in some of the movies. And it's also more accessible, whereas the films, a lot of the jokes, I'm not sure they're funny if you haven't seen the previous movies now.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I am enjoying She-Hulk as well. It's divided people, I think, in terms of the fact that it is a half-hour comedy, and it was always billed as a half-hour comedy. That was always what it was going to be. I know there is some criticism of the fact that, you know, doing the sort of mundane life things, which is what most of this has been so far. It's like you say, it's basically Ally McBeal with green lead, but I've been enjoying that for what it is.
Yeah, it's designed to be like almost throwaway comedy, just a bit of fun, I think. Whereas I think we expect something a bit more from the movies, which makes it a bit different. Also, like, you're watching a TV show and She-Hulk's just included on Disney Plus. Like, whereas if I go to the cinema for something, I think it sets up different expectations.
Yeah, very much so. It's interesting. The Thor movies have been a bit uneven. You know, I thought the first one was great. Second one, not so much. Third one, I really enjoyed. Fourth one, not so much. So I wonder if it's going to have the Star Trek thing of kind of alternate movies are better.
I think they've missed a trick by not making a Loki movie.
Well, yes, possibly. Although they did such a good job with the TV series, maybe it needs that longer format. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what it's missing. Maybe it's missing a Tom Hiddleston. I'm sure you'd agree with that. But I would hope at some point they can bring this version of Loki back in and we get to see Loki and Thor again. I would like to see a Loki and Thor film next.
Yeah, with the kind of like, if they are going to keep the character changes and Thor is going to stay as this kind of slightly more, like, he's almost turning into the kind of like lovable, adorable, dumb surfer bro trope, you know?
Yes.
He's a himbo at this point, at which point with Loki's character development and him now being like, you know, a much more sensitive, thoughtful type character who's changed a lot, then he could be like the straight guy to the comedy of Thor. Like, that might work well as a double act to balance things out. Yeah. Because it sort of felt like a lot of people were competing to be the silliest character in Love and Thunder.
Yes. So that I would maybe like to see is put those two back together, because I do enjoy watching them on screen together, and I think that could work really, really well. So. Yeah,
just the change in their relationship, because obviously Loki would comment on what happened to you and Thor would be like, what happened to you? Like, that would be, I think, quite an amusing thing to happen. But yeah, we'll see what they do with it, because I think they need to balance it out a little bit more, and that's one way that I can think of doing it, or certainly the way I would like it to happen, because you know, obviously more Loki in the MCU is not something I'm going to complain about.
Absolutely not. No. So that's been really the main thing I've been watching this week. Other TV shows, I'm continuing watching Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, which I am quite enjoying, and Lower Decks, which is back, which is amazing fun, and all the other stuff as well, which is out at the moment. I know the TV schedules have been a little bit all over the place, obviously due to the death of the Queen last week. And they're going to be a bit all over the place for the next couple of weeks, probably. But so, I mean, a lot of the scheduled dramas and things seem to be going out, and some of the comedies, it's just the satirical panel shows and that sort of thing seems to be off air right now, understandably, I think. But hopefully by next week, everything will be back to normal. So that's all the stuff we've been doing over the last week. Let's move on to some TV and film news. We kick off the TV and film news with the renewals, cancellations and pickups. There's been a couple of cancellations this week. One of those is the show Maggie, which Hulu cancelled after one season. That ran on Disney Plus over here. And Paper Girls has been cancelled by Prime Video after one season, although Legendary Entertainment that make it are planning to try and shop it somewhere else. I don't think that's probably going to land, but they are at least attempting to sell it to somebody else. I watched the first few episodes of that. It was fine, but just didn't quite grab me as much as I think they were hoping it would. I think they were hoping for a sort of Stranger Things vibe, and I don't think it landed, unfortunately. But based on the comic book, I don't know whether you've read the comic book for that.
I haven't for that one, no.
I enjoyed the comic book as well. I mean, it's about these group of paper girls that get caught by a bunch of aliens that are in the middle of this sort of time war. They start off in the 80s and they end up getting sort of pulled through time. But it is interesting and fun, but unfortunately, I don't think it quite landed properly. Renewals, Pretty Little Liars Original Sin, renewed for second season by HBO Max. That hasn't landed here yet. Handmaid's Tale returning for a sixth and final season, they have announced. Fifth season's due out in the autumn. Other pickups and other news. The Peripheral now has a premiere date. That's coming the 21st of October to Prime Video. This is based on the William Gibson novel. It's a sci-fi thriller that follows the story of Flynn Fisher, a woman trying to hold together the pieces of her broken family in a forgotten corner of tomorrow's America. Flynn is smart, ambitious, and doomed. She has no future until the future comes calling for her. This looks really quite interesting. It's from Kilter Films, which is the company that is owned and exec produced by Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan, the people behind Westworld. So they're the people that are sort of shepherding this as well. Do you know the novel?
It's one of the few I haven't read, actually. I've read a lot of William Gibson books, and it's one of the few I haven't read. But I mean, of all the books I have read, which is many, I've loved all of them pretty much. So yeah, I will definitely want to add the book to my reading list and to check this one out as well.
Yeah, 21st of October on Prime Video, that is landing. So it's Chloe Grace Moretz, I think, is the lead role in it. So that should be one to look out for. That's called The Peripheral. Quantum Leap, the reboot / continuation series of that. There is a trailer out for it. We don't have a UK air date for it. It's coming in the autumn onto NBC. In fact, I think it's later this month it lands on NBC. So we'll see whether it does get picked up over here. I mean, it being NBC, it should really land on Sky, but then we said that about La Brea, and La Brea, for some bizarre reason, ended up on Paramount Plus. So who knows where this will end up, but hopefully somebody picks it up over here. The trailer looks quite good. I mean, it is essentially following the plot of the original of Guy steps into Quantum Leap Accelerator, ends up leaping into bodies of other people, has to solve whatever is going on in their life to be able to leap out and hopefully make the leap home. And he's lost his memory, so he doesn't know exactly who he is or how he got there and all that sort of stuff. And there is a female hologram that is connected to him that is trying to guide him through it. That's basically the setup. But it isn't a complete reboot. It is a continuation of the original series. So all the old stuff is there as history. They are continuing that storyline.
There's no Ziggy.
No.
That was one of my things, was just like, there's no Ziggy, even if it was just a touchpad of some sort. Like,
well, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know whether they've completely got rid of Ziggy or whether it's just not shown up in the trailer or what. But yeah.
I don't know. That was one of the things where I was like, but where is Ziggy? It's not even a person, and I'm upset at its absence. I'm also not entirely sure what I make of the kind of like love interest aspect and kind of making it so front and center as it appears to be in the trailer. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I'm always kind of a little bit frustrated by that, because it's like, well, there's only kind of one way plots like that can go, and I think I would have preferred it to have not have been a love interest, or not the love interest as his primary interaction, because she's obviously just going to be sad the whole time.
Well, yeah,
because he's forgotten her. Like, I don't know, we'll see. I will keep my mind open for it.
The sort of slight snarkiness of Dean Stockwell as Al in the original works so well, and I know what you mean with that.
He was so kind of, I don't know, the word lackadaisical comes to mind about the whole thing. He was just kind of like, hey, sort yourself out, here you go, I'm gonna do this now, I'm hologram, whatever, you know. And I really liked that dynamic, whereas if they're both a bit kind of confused and lost and sad, like that, just I don't know, I liked that comedy element. It worked really, really well. And I think it kind of signals to me a bit of this continuing trend that we seem to have for comedy things being made serious and serious things being made into comedy that we see with a lot of remakes. We saw it with, wasn't it The Man from U.N.C.L.E. or something, ended up with like a semi-serious almost remake. And I'm just like, well, this is supposed to have a lot of humor. And I think that the humor vibe was quite important because otherwise the show's too heavy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Again, it's just a short trailer. There's not that much in it. So I don't want to judge the whole show just based on that. But yeah, that was kind of my initial reaction was like, well, everything's becoming comedy apart from things that are supposed to be comedy.
Yes, it is that relationship that is going to be very difficult to replace. And the fact that it's his wife or girlfriend that is the hologram, I'm not sure whether that's a great choice. But we'll see. As I say, don't know where it's going to land over here, assuming it does land over here, because there are some things that don't get picked up, but hopefully that will land here at some point. A couple of things moving from Sky Witness across onto Disney Plus as Disney wholesale starts to reclaim all their original shows. Grey's Anatomy Season 19, Station 19 Season 6, and 911 Season 6 are all now moving from Sky Witness onto Disney Plus for their next seasons. We don't know when they're going to land. I think they're hoping to drop them in the autumn, but the new seasons of those will be on Disney Plus rather than Sky Witness in the UK. And they've been steadily doing this with all the Disney made shows. So 911 Lone Star moved, The Resident moved. Things that are safe at the moment, The Rookie, because although it's an ABC show in the US, it's actually made by E1. So the deal is with E1, not with Disney. So that should be staying on Sky Witness. There are a couple of others as well that are in a similar situation, but I think all the shows that are moving from Sky onto Disney Plus should have moved by now. I think these were the last three, and I know it upset a lot of people because there are people that have Sky and don't have Disney Plus, and yes, they watched Grey's Anatomy for 18 seasons, and now the 19th season won't be available to them unless they get it. So yeah, I get it. Unfortunately, Disney Plus is going to be doing that with all its shows as much as it's possible. It's the same with the FX deal that it had with the BBC. When they can that, all the FX shows now go onto Disney Plus, and just the way it is, unfortunately. It's Disney's own content. They want it on their own service. So there you go. They did surprise drop a couple of things this week. BTS Permission to Dance on Stage LA dropped on Disney Plus Day. That came out of nowhere. They told nowhere they were doing that. So for a BTS fan, which I'm sure there are some of you out there that are, that has dropped on Disney Plus for you to watch. The other thing they dropped was NCIS Hawaii, which we've kind of been talking about for a while, and like nobody seemed to be airing it. And then out of nowhere on the 7th of September, it just popped up on Disney Plus, which is extremely odd because it's a CBS show. So it's not something...
I was going to say, that's not what I was expecting there.
Now, they do have a couple of things on there on Disney Plus which they don't own. Like Walking Dead airs on there, and that's an AMC show. And they do have the main NCIS on there, and that is a CBS show. But the reasons they're on there is because it's a hangover from when they had the Fox UK channel, and they had the licensing deal left over from when they were on Fox UK. So they moved them onto Disney Plus and started hosting them on there. So those sort of made sense, but we weren't expecting them to pick up anything else that wasn't a Disney thing because Disney owns half the networks anyway, so there's no real need for them to buy things in. So it was somewhat surprising that they picked this up, particularly when Paramount Plus, which is CBS owned, or Paramount owned and CBS is Paramount owned, when that launched last month and NCIS Hawaii wasn't on it. So it seems that the CBS shows aren't automatically going to be going to Paramount Plus. They're being sold to the highest bidder. That seems to be what they're doing with it, rather than hoarding them for Paramount Plus, which from a monetary point of view for CBS does rather make sense because they get actual cash from selling those shows. And CBS Studios has to show its bottom line to its boss Paramount every year. And one of the ways to do that is to just flog them to the highest bidder, not allow Paramount Plus just to take the content in international markets and dump it on there. So whether it will show up on Paramount Plus at a later date, maybe, I don't know, but it's been odd with Paramount Plus launching because a lot of the CBS content, like this and CSI Vegas series, got sold to other broadcasters. Whereas you would have thought those would be quite big launch series for Paramount Plus, and they weren't there.
Yeah. Is it really that big of a show? I just thought things like CSI and NCIS were kind of background telly for most people at these points. Like, I'm surprised like somebody wanted to be the highest bidder and fought for it.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I think they may have got this is because of the fact that there is a crossover with the main NCIS show, and it's not like Disney is short of the money. So maybe they went, look, we've got the main NCIS, can we have Hawaii to run with it? Because if it's on two different networks, it's going to upset the UK audience. So maybe that's the reason why they bid for it. But it is odd that those things are being sold and not just going straight onto Paramount Plus. Because, as I say, with Disney, all the stuff that was on other networks, they're now reclaiming. So it's just a bit strange that that's not the same situation that they're doing with Paramount Plus. But, you know, whatever works for them, I guess. That's the where it's going. But yeah, so NCIS Hawaii Season 1 is now available on Disney Plus UK. Ghosts Season 4 has a premiere date. That's coming Friday, the 23rd of September at 8:30 p.m. on BBC One and iPlayer. I came very late to this show, but absolutely fell in love with it. It's wonderfully fun. I should have known it was going to be great because it's from the team behind Horrible Histories and Yonderland. So, you know, I should have realised that this was going to be brilliant, but I really enjoyed this series. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I've watched a few episodes and then I got distracted by something and kind of forgot it existed. So I'm going to have to get back on that now because it was very nice.
Yeah.
And just like, yeah, it was just like funny and sweet and just good if you want something that's lighthearted.
Yeah.
And like a friendly and approachable TV series as opposed to most of the things I normally watch.
Yeah, there's no kind of agenda behind it. It's just fun, entertaining, something you can sit on for half an hour and have a real laugh with. I really enjoyed it. It's just easy watching and very, very funny. So 23rd of September, that's coming to BBC One and iPlayer, and that's the full season of Ghosts. Superman and Lois have cast their new Jonathan Kent. As you might remember, a few weeks ago, we said that Jordan Ellis, who was playing Jonathan Kent, basically at the very last minute stepped away from the character and said that he wasn't returning to the show. So they've cast a guy called Michael Bishop into the role of Jonathan Kent. He's probably best known for his American breakthrough as playing Max in the Disney film Spin. He was also in an Australian fantasy drama called Grace Beside Me as well. Don't really know him as an actor at all, but having looked at the picture of the guy, he seems to fit the role quite well. It's just going to be interesting. I don't think they're going to make reference to it. It's literally just going to be a straight swap out for a different actor. The leaving thing, we didn't know exactly what the reasoning was at the time, but it seems to be to do with Jordan Ellis's mental health. There was a camo video that he did for a fan where he was talking about it, and he said, it's sad, it's a real shame. I know I was pumped for season 3 for sure, but what are you going to do? Anyway, mental health is definitely 100% priority. It's pinnacle. It's got to take precedent, and mine has been in the last couple of years. It's been rough. I need some time to myself. I'm debating whether I'm either going to go and act for a while. I may be in a different direction. I know that I'm definitely going to be disappointing some people. That was the comment he made. He had previously posted an Instagram thing talking about his mental health and taking it down. So I have to say, I have a lot of courage to him for stepping away from a role that's that big and not trying to plow through it and going, no, I need to deal with this.
Yeah, health always has to come first. There's a lot of pressure on people, I think, more than ever in sort of the age of content being constantly pumped out across social media, across everything else, where there's a lot of pressure to just like never miss a day. There's a lot of that kind of hustle culture thing. Mm-hmm. And it's good to see somebody saying, no, my health actually is important. This is my life. Yeah, no matter how good a job is, it is still work and therefore has to be secondary.
Yeah. So I hope he manages to find his way to whatever he needs to do to get back to a point where he either goes back into acting or whatever else it is he wants to do. But I'm really happy that he didn't just try and plow through it and end up, I mean, we get all sorts of stories. I mean, look at half the cast of Glee, what happened to many of them. We get all sorts of stories about the pressures of young people in Hollywood, and the fact that he's stepped away and gone, no, I'm going to sort this out. He's really a testament to him. So hopefully he manages to do whatever it is he needs to do and comes back somewhere else. But that's the new guy. It's a guy called Michael Bishop that's taking over that role. More DC casting news on Titans, they've cast Titus Welliver as Lex Luthor in season 4. He will be coming. He's probably best known for Bosch, the Prime Video series, but I mean, he's been in a million different things. I mean, he was in Lost. He was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He was in Sons of Anarchy, Deadwood, Suits, Good Wife, Last Ship. He's one of those people that is like, I know that face from somewhere when he pops up in a TV show. He also voiced Carmine Falcone in the Batman The Long Halloween animated movies as well. So it's not his first time playing a villain in this. So, yeah, that's kind of an interesting addition. There is a photo floating around the interwebs of him. Weirdly, they've gone for a huge beard. I mean, he's got the shaved head, but they've gone for a huge beard on Luthor, which I thought was a little odd. Okay. But, you know,
I mean, I guess that's the only thing that's not been done so far. I can't think of anyone who's played Lex Luthor with a huge beard, but you know, yes, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure the reasoning for that, but fine, okay. Maybe there is a plot reason for it. I don't know. It was quite sweet actually. There was an interview the showrunner did with EW, and he was like, "Yeah, you know, usually you've got to go through this whole dog and pony show and like try and convince the actor to come and do it." And he went on a Zoom call with Titus, and he kind of couldn't get a word in edgeways, and he was like it's really excited about the idea of taking on the role, and he was like showing all these Wolfman Perez Titan edition comic books and things. He's a massive comic book nerd, so I thought that was really sweet. So it's going to be really fun seeing him pop up in that as well. Titan season 4 is due out in November on HBO Max in the US, so it's going to be sort of late 2022, early 2023 on Netflix over here. That looks like it's going to be quite good. It's got a couple of other people in it as well that are new. Joseph Morgan, who you'll know from the originals Vampire Diaries, is playing Brother Blood. They've got Franca Poteni as Mother Mayhem, and Lisa Abelanvar, I think her name is, who is playing Jinx as well. So those are the other 3 characters that they've introduced alongside all the returning Titans cast members. And I'm sure you're incredibly excited about this. There is a new Teletubbies series coming.
Yes, a show that I have no nostalgia for.
Yes.
I always found the Teletubbies to be quite creepy. My main memory and knowledge of the Teletubbies is actually when I was working as Christmas temp staff in a shop when I was a teenager, and having very distraught parents who'd been convinced by marketing that their tiny baby that can't tell the difference between any of the characters or see colour needed the red Poe doll. And it was sold out everywhere, and I had these poor, anxious, stressed parents of young babies who clearly hadn't slept in months yelling at 16-year-old me because we were out of stock. And it was terrifying and upsetting, but also I really just felt for them because like this clearly didn't matter and their baby clearly couldn't tell the difference. But the fact, you know, it's the only reason I know which one's which is because I'd be like, well, we have these ones, and they'd be like, we don't need Tinky Winky, and I'd be like, okay, you can try the other branch down the road, and then we tried there already, they came here, and I was like, okay. So that's my main memory of the Teletubbies.
Yes,
but yeah.
So for parents everywhere and stoners, 14th of November on Netflix. It's Netflix that are responsible for this. That is when 26 new episodes, I don't know whether they're all dropping in one go, but 26 new episodes of the Teletubbies are being made. Titus Burgess, who you will probably know from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, is narrating it. I think they've also got an additional song segment that's going in as well. So happy parenting. You'll enjoy that.
I'm just glad I won't be working in retail the Christmas after that comes out. That's all of it there.
Yes, if you've got preteens or are stoners, then the Teletubbies will be back. Moving on to the other big bits of news this week, it was, of course, Star Trek Day, and it was D23 as well. So there was a lot of news floating around. The Star Trek Day news roundup, there was a lot of trailers and bits and pieces, but there was a few little sort of casting bits and other things. So there was a trailer for Star Trek Picard Season 3 that also had a premiere date. That's going out on the 16th of February in the US. It's going out on Prime Video still globally because they still have the global rights for it. So 17th of February for that. That's not officially announced, but it's always gone out next day. So I would assume it's going to be the same. So 16th of February in the US, 17th of February everywhere else. Trailer for this looked quite good. There's a lovely moment between Riker and Picard where Picard's trying to convince him to go on this mission. He's like, oh, well, yeah, I don't want to put you in danger. And Riker just goes, since when? It looks really good. It's going to have most of the original Next Generation cast back. And I know there's been mixed reactions to the first two seasons. The third season being that I rather like the sound of that. And they are back on Federation ships as well, not sort of a ragtag crew flying around the galaxy, which they were previously. I think this could be a really nice sort of send-off for Picard. Did you watch any of the other seasons of this?
I watched season 1. I felt like it was very rushed and they had the plot for, another 10 episodes and then just skipped through it, which was a little frustrating. I did enjoy it. I just felt it suffered from a runtime shorter than the content they seemed to want to include, because a lot of things didn't have enough breathing space. Relationships didn't get to develop, and it just felt like they'd introduce an idea and need to get rid of it by the end of the episode and chuck it literally out of an airlock. And then I'd be like, oh no, that was a cool idea. Season 2, I haven't watched yet. I've been meaning to. But yeah, there were so many mixed reviews to it that it kind of slowly fell down my watch list a little bit. And I opted to catch up on the MCU instead. And, I also want to watch through Sandman because I'm a big fan of the Sandman comics. I've only seen one episode of that as well. So yeah, I'll watch it, but it sort of wasn't my priority, which is a shame because I do really like Picard.
Yeah, I thought season 2 was better than season 1. I thought it was a better story and got a time travel thing in it, which I really quite enjoyed the second season. I thought that was much better and more solidly put together. Sandman, very different to the comic books, but still a very good adaptation. I saw an article headline saying this is how you do a comic books adaptation, which is nothing like the comic book. But I thought they did a really good job with that. Very much enjoyed it. It's got a weird aspect ratio to it, which we've talked about before. And so it's not your TV. It is a weird aspect ratio. They've shot it in. Just you have to deal with it. It becomes easier the more you watch it. You get used to it, but it is a little strange. But yes, worth definitely watching The Sandman. Other Star Trek stuff, there was a season 5 photo and behind the scenes set tour for Discovery. Not much else on that. Lower Decks, they had a sneak peek of an upcoming episode, but that, of course, is running the current season out on Prime Video. That's still on Prime Video as well. Star Trek Prodigy, they gave a premiere date for season 1 part 2, which is coming back on the 27th of October. I haven't actually watched that yet because it was sort of aimed at a younger audience. I thought, maybe I won't, but it's sounding quite interesting. There's apparently 2 Janeways in it. So that sounds like it could be quite good fun. I might go and have to catch up with that and see if it sort of has a Star Wars Rebels vibe to it, like aimed at a younger audience, but hitting a higher audience possibly. I don't know. We'll see. And Star Trek Strange New Worlds, there was a clip which was quite funny of the new season. And they've also got some casting news as well. Academy Award nominee Carol Kane is joining the series in the recurring role as Pella, a highly educated and intelligent engineering officer that suffers no fools. She solves problems calmly and brusquely thanks to her many years of experience. She's probably best known for her role in 80s comedy Taxi, which won her 2 Emmys. She also played Lillian in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. So another Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt person popping up as well. Strange New Worlds, have you got to that one yet? Because no,
embarrassingly, I'm behind on so much telly. I have not seen any of it, which I know is a bit of a shock. I've been away this long and I have not managed to catch up on my shows with spaceships in. But yeah, I need to see it. I've heard good things, but yeah, I'm just so behind.
It is brilliant. I would urge you, if you're going to go and pick up one of the shows with spaceships in, that would probably be the one I'd go to. First episode, a little bit wobbly, but once you get onto the second episode, it really finds its feet and it's superb. It's very much the spiritual successor to the original series and it just works so well. It's what I think people that complain about, Discovery is not really Star Trek, Strange New Worlds very much is. And it's
I'll add that to the list with watching all of the Orville then as the definitely new Star Trek.
Yes. Interestingly, compared to the Orville, Strange New Worlds is funnier for the final season as well.
Okay.
The Orville's final season gets a lot more serious, whereas Strange New Worlds has a lot more humour in it. I mean, it's got serious bits in it as well, and it balances it very well, but there are a lot more jokes in Strange New Worlds than there are in the Orville season 3. I love the Orville season 3, but there are more jokes in Strange New Worlds, which is slightly odd given that the Orville was supposed to be a parody of Star Trek. The other bit of news that came out was Star Trek Online. Will Wheaton is making his first appearance in Star Trek Online as Wesley Crusher in the Ascension expansion for that. I won't go into details of how he shows up because you'd need to know more about the game to be able to do that. But yes, so Will Wheaton is back as Wesley Crusher in that. So moving off Star Trek and onto Lucasfilm, they had a panel at D23 as well, and they announced not really any new stuff, but there was sort of bits and pieces that came out of that. There was a premiere date for Tales of the Jedi, which is a 6-episode animated short series from Dave Filoni, described as 2 stories of fate, 1 destiny. The 2 halves are represented by Ahsoka Tano and Count Dooku. It's Dooku in his Jedi years, and it's a sort of younger version of Ahsoka, and we sort of see how she ends up with the Jedi in the first place. It looks like it's going to be a really interesting set of shorts, very much done in the similar sort of style to the other animated series that they've had on there. But that's got a premiere date Wednesday, the 26th of October. That lands on Disney Plus, and I am looking forward to that. It looks like it's going to be really interesting, good.
Yeah, definitely. I always like Ahsoka, and the Star Wars animated stuff is it's been consistently good, hasn't it? Really, even when it has some wibbles, or you had Clone Wars just had too many episodes. There's some filler bits in there, but even so, it's all very watchable.
Absolutely, it is. It's been really, really good. Dave Filoni's done an amazing job with that, and so I'm always happy to see him do more animation stuff, and this is an interesting little sort of additional set of animated shorts. Mandalorian, there was a little bit about that for season 3. There was a trailer that went up, picks up after the events of the Book of Boba Fett, because you do sort of need to see the last couple of episodes of the Book of Boba Fett for this to make sense of, because if you watch the end of the Mandalorian season 2, where they pick up for this will make no sense. So you sort of need to watch the Book of Boba Fett as well. It looks like it's going to be a full-on father-son adventure series with Mando and Grogu zipping around their galaxy in their very sweet new ride, which again they get from the Book of Boba Fett series. Bo-Katan is back, played by Katie Sackhoff. Giancarlo Esposito is back as Moff Gideon. Amy Sedaris is back as Peli, the wonderfully fun engineer. I love that character. She's hilarious. So that's going to be landing in 2023. We don't know exactly when yet, but Mandalorian's a great series. That's well worth watching. The Bad Batch has been moved back because it was due to premiere in the autumn. It's now been moved back to the 4th of January. So that was the only bit of news for The Bad Batch. That's for season 2 of that. There was a full trailer that dropped for Willow. So that TV series, they also brought out Christian Slater because apparently he's now part of the cast. They didn't say
cool.
They didn't say exactly who he was playing, but they hinted at him being a friend of Mad Martigan. And they also gave the premiere date, I think we had already, but 30th of November, that is dropping. So I'm guessing he's covering the sort of Mad Martigan parts, because I don't know whether they've managed to get Val Kilmer in to do anything for this, because obviously his health is not great at this point. So I don't know whether he's appearing at all or what. But I wonder if they're using him as a sort of stand-in different character for that role to take over what would have been the Mad Martigan role, maybe.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. And I think that's probably a good way to go about it, just to take some pressure off, if nothing else, even if they kind of share some of the parts of that, just allows it to definitely meet their filming schedules and things, whilst giving us another actor that we've got a lot of nostalgia for, who would be absolutely great in that part. I can absolutely see that working out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Willow. The original, still scares me slightly in places. I'm not going to lie, I am a complete wimp. I am looking forward to it. Like, the film was one I've watched quite a lot of times when I was younger, and as a grown-up as well, still being scared of exactly the same bits. And I love the idea of being able to expand that world and expand that story, and I think it's going to be good fun.
It should be really good fun. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That should be great. 30th of November for Willow. There was a little bit about Indiana Jones 5. They did actually show, I think, some footage, but they haven't released that online. But Harrison Ford and Phoebe Waller-Bridge were both there, who are starring in the movie. And Harrison commented that I'm proud to say that this one is fantastic, and this is one of the main reasons, pointing at Waller-Bridge. Indiana Jones movies are about mystery and adventure, and they're also about heart. And I'm really, really happy that we have a really human story to tell, as well as a movie that will kick your ass. So he seems very happy with it, which is good. Other than that, I think it's out June, I think they said next year, but that's Indiana Jones 5. As I said, they showed some footage there, but not released it online yet. And there was another little bit of news which wasn't actually part of the panel, but came out around about the same time. They've cast a live-action Ezra Bridger for the Ahsoka series. Manes Fandi, I think his name is, and he has previously starred in the Robert Rodriguez horror movie Red 11, and he was in the film King Richard, which was the tennis movie about the Williams sisters' dad. He's going to be taking the role of Ezra in it, and if you remember where we left everybody at the end of the Rebels series, Ezra had disappeared with Admiral Thorne, who had been transported away by a bunch of space whales, which sounds ridiculous, but it worked. So that had left Ahsoka and Sabine were going off to try and find him. So it sounds like that's basically the story that we're going to be picking up. It's set 5 years after Return of the Jedi, I think they said this is. And as well as the characters of Ahsoka and Sabine, we've got Ray Stevenson in there, who's playing a villainous admiral, although it's not going to be Thrawn. There's going to be another one. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Ivana Sanko are also set to star, but they're in undisclosed roles at the moment. Hayden Christensen is also supposed to be back as Anakin Skywalker, although presumably that's either going to be in flashback or as some sort of Force ghost, given where we are in the timeline.
Yeah, unless they've gone for some real wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that will be interesting. But yeah, or recordings is the other option as well.
Yes,
those digital, like help me, Obi-Wan, you'll be my only hope style recordings as a way of doing expositions, quite common. So could be a few different ways they could incorporate him.
Yeah, it would be nice to see Ahsoka and Hayden Christensen doing that in live action. That would be nice to see on screen, sort of Anakin and Ahsoka in live action, because we've never actually had the pair of them together before. So I would like to see some little flashback bits of the stuff that they did in Clone Wars, but in live action would be quite fun.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But I think it's going to be quite good fun, this series. And
yes.
I'm quite looking forward to it, because I think sometimes, what I'm like with Westerns, and The Mandalorian has been a Western up until now, and the pacing of it and the kind of shots and stuff is I like it, but I find it a little bit more of a slog to get through, just because of the kind of the nods to the genre that's inspired it. Whereas I think this will be a bit more fun, a bit more fast paced, and a bit more colourful.
Yes, absolutely. Those are all the bits from the Lucasfilm panel. Marvel, slightly less stuff with the Marvel side. A few big trailers that they dropped, or a few reasonable sized trailers. Some stuff that they notably didn't drop as well. Secret Invasion got a trailer, so that is now up. You can find all this on the website. That's the event series, which is based on the popular comic book event, and see Samuel L. Jackson reprise his role as Nick Fury alongside Ben Mendelsohn, who plays the Skrull Talos, who we first met in Captain Marvel, and they were last saw hanging out on a spaceship at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. It's also got Colby Smulders in there, Martin Freeman is in there as Everett K. Ross, you've got Don Cheadle as Rhodey, Dermot Mulroney is in there, Kingsley Ben-Adir, Olivia Colman, because why would you make anything without throwing Olivia Colman in there? Emilia Clarke, Killia Scott, Christopher McDonald, and Carmen Ejogo in there as well. So, yeah, the trailer for this looked quite good. It seems like Fury has headed back to Earth and people are chasing him and the Skrulls are there and after something. That's sort of basically all you really get from the trailer, but it looks like decent action-packed fun, this one. I am quite looking forward to that. Do you know the Secret Invasion plotline particularly?
Yeah, they like a lot of these big crossover multi-comic book line things like Secret Invasion, Secret Wars, lots of secret things that seem to not be that secret because every character knows about them.
Yes.
It's another huge event piece to do. Like, part of me thinks they should go for smaller individual stories for a bit. Like, you know, I feel like all the Marvel movies, as we were saying earlier, rely on you having seen a ton of other Marvel movies. So, yeah, I was a bit surprised when they first announced that they were going to go down these kind of routes and start involving even more characters and even more crossover stuff. But, yeah, it will be fun. It will be good because they always are fun. Even the bad Marvel movies are still fun. So I've no doubt that I'm going to watch it. But I was just really hoping for more sort of standalone movies like the Guardians of the Galaxy first movie was, and the kind of smaller things like that. Because you think about like how fun the Ant-Man movies and the first Guardians movie and things were. I was hoping for a few more like that.
There is possibly one coming up, but before we get to that, we've got Werewolf by Night, which is a special presentation. It's a one-off special from first-time director and long-time composer Michael Giacchino, and it is a sort of proper old school black and white TV horror special. It's very much done in that sort of 1960s black and white horror TV special style. Story follows Jack, who tries to protect his family, his small town in Arizona, and himself after becoming the new Werewolf by Night. 7th of October, they're dropping that. So it's going to be a sort of one-off thing. They're calling it a special presentation. It is like a black and white sort of Halloween-y one-off thing that they're doing for that. And the other thing is Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolts movie, which they originally announced back at SDCC, they revealed that that was going to be the closing movie for Phase 5 back at SDCC. And one of the questions that we had at the end of that announcement was, who's the team actually going to be? Because much like the Avengers, the Thunderbolts are made up of a whole bunch of different people and they're interchangeable. And, you know, there's been so many people in at one point or another. So they now announced exactly who's going to be in it. It's going to be Florence Pugh as Yolanda, who is the new Black Widow. You've got Sebastian Stan back as Bucky, aka the Winter Soldier. David Harbour as Red Guardian is in there. You've got Wyatt Russell back as John Walker, the US agent. Hannah John Carmen as Ghost. Taskmaster is in there. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Valenta Allegra de Fontaine, who I suspect they may be using as the person that put the team together, seeing as we've seen her approach John Walker and we've seen her approach Black Widow as well. So I think in the comic books it's Baron Zemo that puts the team together, and I do wonder if maybe they've switched that up so it's Allegra that's doing it this time round, possibly. Kevin Feige did say it tells you a lot when the Winter Soldier is the most stable hero of the bunch.
Yeah, it's interesting to bring out a group like that after the Suicide Squad movies over on the DC side have been so like mixed in quality and reception. It's obviously not quite at that level of like the bad guys are the good guys, but they're not a very well-known team by kind of the general public as well. So I was curious when I heard they were making that, because I was like, okay, is anyone going to have even heard of them?
Well, the advantage it's got is people know the individual characters in most part because they've all been in other bits and pieces. We've seen that version of Black Widow. Obviously, we know Bucky. Red Guardian was in the Black Widow movie. Falcon Winter Soldier had a US agent in it, although he was playing Captain America at that time, but we were introduced to that. Ghost was in Ant-Man 2, was it? I think that character was in. So we've seen most of these characters in other places.
Yeah, I'm not sure that some of them are characters like where you're kind of having to think, I think this person was in Ant-Man 2. It kind of tells me that you weren't immediately thinking this person needs to be in a spin-off movie.
No, but then if it's a team thing, I mean, you know, I think that's okay. I think Red Guardian was a real fun character. I can stand to see more. Yolanda as Black Widow, I think it would be an interesting, that version version of Black Widow is worth seeing again. Obviously, Bucky's great, Sebastian Stan's great. And then there are a couple of others that you kind of, well, you know, yeah, whatever. But Valenta Allegra de Fontaine, that character, the moment she stepped on screen, which she's in the tag end of the Black Widow film, I think is the first place we see her.
Yeah.
And she's wonderful in that. And I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So that I'm all up for having her in here because I think she's fantastic.
Yeah, I think I was surprised it was the final movie and not like a limited TV series or something.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be using it instead of an Avengers movie to close out Phase 5.
Yeah, which is an interesting choice.
Yes. I mean, Phase 6 ends with 2 Avengers films. We know that. But Phase 5, they've gone with Thunderbolts instead. And it is sort of like a anti-Avengers or an alt-Avengers kind of setup.
Yeah,
That's how they're
I
running
can
with
see
it.
that.
So that seems to be why they're doing it, which is an interesting kind of choice. So that is coming soon, and we now know who's in it. There is a shot of them sort of photoshopped together up on the website, which they released. Moving on to Fantastic Four, which we know is upcoming as well. We all expected a casting announcement for this, and nothing. And Kevin Feige came out saying, we're confirming that Max Shankman, who did WandaVision, is the director of it. That's it. There will be another D23 before we give any more information out. So stuff the lot of you, basically. He didn't say that, but yeah, everybody was expecting cast for Fantastic Four, and it didn't happen. So
yeah, it's a lot of weight kind of on the shoulders for this one because, like, Fantastic Four movies historically
yes, it'd be mixed. I think
have not gone very well. I always used to describe it as, you know, one of the more boring things in the Marvel Action Hour cartoons when I was a kid. It's weird that just the Fantastic Four it's like it's slightly cursed whenever somebody tries to make an adaptation of it.
Yeah.
I'm almost surprised they're trying again based on everything that's gone previously.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't mind the first movie that they did.
That's not a glowing endorsement. I didn't mind it.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the time, I mean, you're sort of pre all the MCU stuff, and I think they did a really solid job given, you know, technology at the time and all that sort of stuff. You know, I think they did a perfectly decent job with that film. Second one wasn't so great. Then they tried to do that remake thing, which was always a terrible idea. It's not actually that bad of a film, but it just isn't right. The fact that they're now doing it as part of the MCU, and it needs to be part of the MCU because they are kind of Marvel's first family, so really needs to be internally part of the MCU and handled properly. So,
well, I mean, their first inclusion was just to briefly include Mr. Fantastic in an alternate universe for the Multiverse of Madness, and then take him to pieces.
Yeah.
So I mean,
yes. So I mean, we'll see whether John Krasinski ends up getting announced again for this, or whether they cast somebody else entirely. Because that at the time was just a one-off thing, but who knows? We'll see. But Max Shankman, I think he's great. I mean, WandaVision was amazing, so that's a good director that they've got in there. Over onto Loki Season 2, we have a new cast member, Ki Hu Kwan. He's joining the cast, who I think probably best known for his work as a child actor in The Goonies and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He made a bit of a comeback earlier this year with Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I still haven't seen, but everybody tells me he's brilliant. He came out on stage with Tom Hiddleston, Owen Wilson, and Sophie DiMartino, who are all back for the new season as well. He did come out on stage and go, I'm confused right now. Is this not the Indiana Jones panel? That was quite funny. And there's a really cute picture of him and Harrison Ford hugging as well later on, which I thought was lovely. But so he's going to be joining the cast as one of the agents, I think, at the, I can't remember what it's called, the Time Bureau place thing.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm so looking forward to that series. It looks brilliant.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I had to get Disney Plus specifically to watch that series. I'm highly biased and I can't make any kind of, proper review, I think, of the series because I just enjoyed it, and now I also am doubly a fan of crocodiles and I want a spin-off with just like crocodile/alligator Loki, whichever one that was, because I thought they really did that kind of mix of stuff really well. Yeah.
It was great, that series. That and WandaVision, I think, have been the two best things they've made in terms of the TV stuff so far.
Yeah, I think WandaVision is the best made one for me, because I felt like the kind of two different worlds and showing the kind of using of the aspect ratios and the color and the style of filming to lead you through everything that was going on was just so cleverly done. It was such an intelligent piece of TV, and I was just absolutely like gripped to finding out what was going to happen next with it. So yeah,
it was really, really good, that series, and the attention to detail too, it was just wonderful. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. They did show a trailer of that. That's again not been released online. Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, and Jonathan Majors were in there. So Jonathan Majors playing Kang. And they did say that it has quite a direct link into the Kang Dynasty, which is one of the last two movies of Phase 6. Nothing more about it than that, other than Kang is going to be in there. And Captain America New World Order. They've said Shira Haas and Tim Blake Nelson are joining Anthony Mackie in the first outing on his big screen as Captain America. Haas is playing Sabra, while Nelson is playing the leader in that. So that was just the casting bits and pieces for that. So there wasn't a huge amount of some new stuff that came out of that Marvel panel. There was a number of people I looked at going, kind of disappointed. I think we were hoping I think what everybody was expecting was a Fantastic Four announcement, but nothing. Plus, there are a lot of gaps in the Phase 6 at the moment, which we said before is a bit weird. We're maybe expecting a little bit more to be announced for that, but nothing yet. Anything particularly looking forward to for the Marvel stuff?
I mostly the Loki series, to be honest.
How predictable.
I'm predictable. I'm not even going to pretend anything else. I do also have quite a soft spot for the Ant-Man movies.
Yes.
I like the way they're just kind of those slightly smaller, like the first one's just a heist movie. I do quite like those. I think they're quite rewatchable and quite likable. And I think it's quite nice to have the smaller plot lines, because everything's so big and so not just multi-character, but multiverse and things at this point. And I think it's nice to bring it back down to something slightly smaller again. Because I think as well, we need more sort of entry points for new people into the MCU as well. I think we need more films that could be someone's first film or first series. And I think the Ant-Man ones sometimes can be good ones for that.
Yes, absolutely. Loki, I'm definitely looking forward to. Thunderbolts, I think, could be quite good as well. And the trailer for Secret Invasion looked good. So there's some good stuff in there. We'll see when it all gets released. That's all the news we've got for this week. Just time for some highlights for next week on TV. Highlights for next week on TV, and I will just say these come with the caveat that they are correct at the moment, but things are being moved around quite a lot, obviously, with the funeral organisation and all that sort of stuff for the Queen. So these are correct right now, but Minx Season 1 coming to Paramount Plus, that's on the 14th of September. That's set in the 70s. A young feminist played by Ophelia Lovibond from Los Angeles joined forces with a low-rent publisher to create the first women's erotic magazine. So that could be quite good fun. Never mind the Buzzcocks, that lands for the second season on the 14th of September at 9 p.m. and that returns. All Creatures Great and Small Season 3, that lands on the 15th of September on Channel 5, that at 9 p.m. as well. Professor T returns for a second season on the 16th of September. That's the Ben Miller series crime drama. That's on the 16th of September on ITV at 9 p.m. The Grand Tour is back with a Scandi flick. That's on Amazon Prime. That's another special. That's on the 16th of September. Fate, the Winx Saga, that returns for Season 2. That's on the 16th of September on Netflix. Vampire Academy, which is a new vampire series from Julie Plec, who did the Vampire Diaries, but it's not any way related to the Vampire Diaries stuff. That's coming to Peacock on the 16th of September. Bloodlands is due to land on the 18th of September at 9 p.m. That's on BBC One. Again, that is one that maybe gets pushed back. We'll have to wait and see. And Harlequin Season 3, that's already been pushed back a week. That may get pushed again, but that is on the 18th of September at 10:30. That is Season 3 of Harlequin on E4. As I said, right at the moment, but don't be surprised, particularly if some of the topical comedy stuff gets moved around. And especially, I think the funeral is due to be on the 19th, so it's quite possible anything going out on the 19th might get pushed as well. But we'll wait and see. that's all the stuff coming up for next week on TV. Bex, if they want to find you, where can they find you?
If they would like to pop by for some nostalgia and nonsense and general chaos has been going on the stream recently, they can do so at TristaBytes, which is TristaBytes, because I thought I'd call my name a funny pun, which then makes it very difficult to explain on podcasts. But I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok as well and I stream full-time on Twitch. Plus, I do a bunch of interviews that go up on my YouTube channel as well.
Does being in TikTok take like 10 years off your age?
I'm going to go with yes, because why not?
I swear I don't understand TikTok at all. I'm sorry. I'm too old.
We're about the same age, but nevertheless, sure, why not? Since I'm apparently now 10 years younger.
Yes, exactly. For other people involved in the show, you can go and find Matt on entertainmenttalk.org for lots and lots more podcasts. He's got various things going out at the moment, from Man U football stuff, and I know he's been doing reviews of movies and bits and pieces. So check Matt out on entertainmenttalk.org, and you can check Daryl out on hollywoodnorthnews.net for all those TV shows that you love which are shot in Canada. For us, you can go to the website at geektown.co.uk throughout the week and see all the latest air date information. If you want to get in touch with your questions or comments, email us on podcast@geektown.co.uk. Leave a message on the website post. Find us at Geektown on Twitter or on Facebook at facebook.com/Geektown, on YouTube at youtube.com/Geektown, and on Instagram at Geektown UK. That is everything. We shall see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow.